Right? Okay. All right, guys. Up next, we have Trevor Hearn and Noah Schiffman discussing the dark arts of open source intelligence. Yes!
That has been that going to the getting my hair done, and I'm like, yeah, can you like trim this out and make it long? Why? It's a good thing. You wouldn't understand. I'm sorry. It's a good thing. So, hey everybody, we having fun yet? Are we inebriated yet? Okay, that's probably why we're not having so much fun yet. That's it, definitely. So I'm Skydog, this is Security Freak, or Trevor Hearn and Noah Schiffman. We are part of the Dead Bunny Club. That is a little group that's out of Nashville, or primarily out of Nashville. We kind of work to mentor younger startup pain-in-the-ass hackers, give them some direction, a little bit of creativity, make it possible for them to do a few things. The primary group, or a core group of the Dead Bunny Club actually put on the SkyDogCon conference in Nashville, effectively named after me. Why, I don't know, but. So today we're going to do dark arts of the OSINT. So our roadmap for today is what is OSINT? Thank you very much. Acquisition tools and techniques, anonymizing data, and de-anonymizing data. So. As far as open source intelligence goes, what is it, why do you care, and how can it be optimized? Who's taking notes? Really? You guys are taking notes? This is scary. This is like really supposed to be information? We're fucked. We're totally fucked. Go slower. If you go ahead and write that down, we'll drink a few beers. So what is open source intelligence? It's publicly available data, it's text, things that are on the website. It's imagery, it's a picture of you and your buddies from high school smoking a bong made out of a watermelon that just happened to make it onto the web and will never go away. Pappy will never live that one down. It's video, it's YouTube, it's Vimeo. There have been several images or video clips that have showed up over the years of me before I went to work for Vanderbilt University. I had to call somebody to say, hey, would you mind removing that off YouTube before I go to work for a large southern university? So they were nice enough to do it. I appreciated that. Audio is not so much anymore, unless you're talking about podcasts. And then geospatial, which would be the GPS coordinates and other information and pictures that you might submit, or I think Twitter now has the ability to put that information in. Which, like, I really don't want anyone to know where I'm at most of the time when I'm tweeting. You know, because if you're taking a picture at the strip club, then they can prove you were there. So, very much so. So, one of the problems with what's available online is the signal-to-noise ratio. There's a lot of crap out there. There's some people that go through to try to fuzz the information. I happened to be at a 2600 meeting years ago. And we had invited a couple of local FBI guys out to do a little talk. And one of the guys that was sitting with us said, oh yeah, I've been working really hard to kind of fuzz my information. You know, I go in and I use a different spelling of my last name, and I use a friend's address, and you know, everywhere I go I try to anonymize what I do. So, you know, it's harder to figure out exactly what's going on. These FBI agents are nudging each other, just kind of chuckling, you know, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. I wonder, you know, if this is upsetting them or something like that. So I went to him after the meeting was over, and I said, yeah, I saw you guys kind of chuckling and poking each other. I said, does that make life harder whenever someone does something like that when they're putting their information online? And the guy said, no, not really. We'll just go into the database, figure out where you work, and come to arrest you there. So they didn't really care what was going on. Yeah, sure, spell your last name wrong. We don't give a shit. We'll just show up and get you anyway. So once you can improve the signal-to-noise ratio of what's out there, you end up with actionable data, things that actually make sense. If you spend any time online looking through open source stuff, what you'll end up finding is a lot of different sources may have the wrong information, not because you put them in wrong, it's just because, you know, the lowest common denominator people that are putting the information in don't always put it in correctly. They don't know that the street name that you're on is similar to another one in town that's spelled a little bit different. They picked the wrong one. So once you can improve that, you actually get information that would be classified as intelligence, things that have merit. The history and origins, you had print media, think Pony Express, not Federal Express. So way, way back in the day when Noah was born, you actually had Pony Express that was delivering information. You put a guy on a horseback and he had a letter and he went from here to there and distributed the information. It took a little bit of time for that to take place. Things picked up with telegraph and with radio. So now you had something to get from one location to another for telegraph. For radio, you had broadcast, more of a omnidirectional thing or whatever. And then you went for television, which went first smaller geographic areas and eventually all across the United States. And then now we've moved up with satellites and with the internet, and now we're global. So as time has gone on, the reach of information has got a lot larger. And one of the problems is now there's a larger amount of information that's out there. Now the reach is not the problem. It's the sheer mass of what's there. So, is it you?
I'm right here.
Yeah.
No,
You talk. Do that.
This evolution, open source intelligence, started out news sources, newspapers, printing press, I think, non-electronic forms, government collecting data, so census, any kind of voter registration information, all these big brotherish kind of repositories. Again, lots of data. Academics, so they like to do research and they like to publish this research, and you have lots of data out there that is the result of some academic studies that often overfunded with very meaningless results, but it's data out there. And so nowadays, pretty much all of that is in the electronic database form, and we can now access it through the interweb, and that's so it's really grown, and it's the electronic database portion is what we're, I think, mostly going to be talking about, and is where it gets kind of scary and dangerous. Yeah.
Is that my slide or your slide?
That was yours.
This particular operation, you have websites that are available where you can actually pull it directly online. And of course, databases that you can do queries against. Who's used Maltego? Really? Okay, here we go. Everyone's like, oh, what, he said something I recognize. I'll raise my hand now. I actually had chocolate I was going to throw to people, but I left that in the room. I do have a beer, though, so it tells you where my loyalties lie. So Maltego, basically, you can reach out and grab information. A lot of times it's IP information, email addresses, domain information, things like that you're putting together and compiling. And the problem with information is not that you can't reach it, it's how to actually visualize what's there. I can get you a ton of information in a comma delimited format. The trouble is, are you going to sift through 8,000 pages of information trying to pull out exactly what you want, or is there something you can actually put together and visualize what's going on? One of the things about Maltego is it is very good at link analysis. When you're doing the data mining, you can actually see exactly what's linked together. Who's used FOCA? Dan, just don't raise your hand anymore. It's okay, dude. I don't want to interrupt you anymore. It's all right. So hardly anyone, you ought to check this out. Basically what FOCA does is it looks at the metadata inside documents. Oddly enough, it can actually be used for network analysis if you've got enough information that's from the inside of a network based on where it's stored on the, which server it's stored on, who's done what. You can put together sort of a rudimentary view of someone's network based on where the information is coming from. So it looks at the metadata in documents, PDFs, looks at the EXIF data in pictures, and kind of gives you a view inside of what's going on. It's not secret information, it's just not really in the title or on the page itself. It's things that are hidden in the background. You have SearchDiggity. I don't know who's used that one. It's actually a collection of tools. They've put a lot of things together that search Google and Bing and a lot of other things. They're all basically a lot of different tools to do the same sort of thing, but from a different angle. Who's heard of Recorded Future? You might know about that one. Got a little bit of heat. Basically, what they're doing is analyzing all the social media to try to predict future events. They give it some keywords, a general time frame, and then look at all the instances of that information popping up and try to put something together to predict the future, which I don't think they...
Has anyone actually used Recorded Future here? Anyone tried this out? Okay.
Now, for the right amount of money, I can
Yeah.
cap one for you.
That's actually the celebrity death pool. That's a good use
place
for
a
it.
bet that that person would die on a certain day based on information here, and then there we go.
You know, that's actually probably the best use for it, but it's relatively new. I just wondered if anyone had used it. Okay, well, yeah.
You have web applications, the graph search in Facebook. Has anyone messed with that? It was in beta for a period of time. You had to sign up for it. I was too busy looking at pictures of cats on the internet, so I didn't get a chance to mess with it. So essentially what Facebook said was, we have all this information about everyone's likes and what they want, what they enjoy doing and what, all their pastimes. Why not just become very invasive and look around at what everyone else does, then bug the hell out of them until they, hey, you want to go rock climbing with me? I don't know who you are, but I like rock climbing and you like rock climbing. Let's go rock climbing together. So it was basically they announced, here we have a system where you can go through and look for people who have like interests and everything. So it's the Facebook Stalker edition, I guess. It makes it much easier to figure out who you want to go after. Noah uses it all the time, but and there are plenty of websites. Social mention. I mean, the list. We started compiling a list and from other people's lists, and it was as long as my arm or Noah Schmeckel, but. And social mention, Spokio was Ice Rocket from Meltwater. It's basically the same exact thing, but some of them are more powerful tools based on how they present the data to you, how they actually look at it and put things together. You may favor one tool over someone else, but it may be the exact same thing. You just find it's easier to infer data out of one system than the other. And then, of course, a lot of people said, well, you have Google hacking. Well, you have SearchDiggity and things that do that for you. Well, being the older guys in the room, we've kind of, who plays on the command line all the time? All right, thank you very much. That makes me feel so much better. I've been in companies where you sit down and you pull up the command when the people say, what's that? Where do you click on it at? Just shut up, okay? Let me show you how this works, okay? You have to use the keys? Yes, you actually have to use the keys. So with the Google hacking database, you can actually go in and look at the queries and you might have to use your brain a little bit and say, oh, well, okay, if I'm looking at this and this pulls this type of information, if I change this just a little bit, I get more of a raw feed of information. I literally can see exactly how they're pulling it out, but I have to do more of the analysis myself. So it's not cheating by using one like SearchDiggity and things like that, but sometimes you need to get really granular. And this, going into the Google hacking database and pulling some things out for queries may help you do something a little better, more efficiently. So, I know that's you, isn't it? Am I doing that one? Oh, you're right. You're right. They were looking for us earlier. Dude, you come down for your talk, and we were upstairs going, "You're doing that one." No, I'm not doing that one. You're doing that one. So, public data, what is it? It's cooperatively provided information. So this is my name and this is what I like. I like to rock climb. I like to pet squirrels. Whatever it is, I've put it on Facebook or Twitter or something like that. So then confidentially provided. This is my session ID and my membership to FetLife or kink.com or what. And I wouldn't know what the hell those things are. He told me to say that earlier. Really, I put. Things that are online where you're actually tagged to a session ID and your name and other information. So, and then you have unknowingly provided information, which is, where'd you get this from? This is information out of the DMV that through some agreement somewhere, starts to end up being more public data. You know, I didn't want anyone to know that I said that I weighed 250 pounds when that's probably not correct, but it actually got out there for some reason. So there's several different sources for it. You can definitely see how all three of them come into play, and everyone's done all of them, you know, with the confidence, oh, no one's going to be able to pay any attention to this at all, and here's my credit card. So, is that you? Yeah, that's you.
I think so.
I don't want that one. That's
That's, yeah. Let me adjust the mic since I'm so much taller than Sky. Okay, yes. This is where things get boring. Okay. Public data sets. Why are these things published? Well, it's for good intentions. We're going to do important things like them with like statistical analysis. We're going to do some number crunching and look at the way things are going, trends, patterns, forecasting, sort of looking at retrospective medical data to improve outcomes. And wow, I need to figure what's the best distance from this mic.
I don't care. I just stand back and talk.
Okay, all right. Anyway.
No one's listening anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The whole purpose is supposedly better decision making. That's at least the ruse that they're, yeah. These data sets published by government, academia, and commercial entities. That pretty much covers everyone, I think. But again, it's all for better decision making. It's for our benefit. That's what we're told. Data sources. Well, there are so many companies now that pool and aggregate data sets from all over the place that are, some sell them, some release them freely, some give you some of the metadata. It's become a huge industry, and there's things, even Open Government Initiative trying to make things more open and informative, and which is, I mean, I respect that, but it introduces some problems that we're going to discuss. Even though, like United States Census Bureau, that's a lot bigger than some of these other sites, I like info chimps. I just think that's kind of funny. And of course, Freebase is, yeah, freebase.com. What's that?
Didn't Richard Pryor do that?
Yeah, Richard Pryor. That's right, exactly. Okay, so you have this data, and one of the key things is it's confidential data. So not the stuff that we're not talking about the stuff that we've cooperatively sort of provided. This is information that we're hoping is anonymous. And so they take this data and they use different techniques to anonymize it before making it public. And then all these important things can be done with it to help with decision-making processes. So doing things like removing certain variables that are not necessary for the utility of certain types of analyses, or global recoding, restructuring, or almost like, putting different values for the proportionally for all the data in the sets, or even suppressing certain sort of data points that would be of interest, maybe that would identify an individual. So those things are, yeah, they try to remove all the identifying aspects of the data to keep it truly anonymous, but that doesn't really work. These anonymization,
I was going to make a reference to, so
that's right.
I actually work for Vanderbilt University, which maybe not after this, but.
Yeah, no, you're fired.
I am fired?
Yeah, they told me to fire you
okay.
at the talk.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
so
We're good.
in anonymizing data, there's two sort of metrics that you look at. Disclosure risk. Okay, have we removed the information that is going to minimize disclosure of the identity or of the individual? So let's remove all the identifying aspects. But you remove too much, and then you have to worry about the utility of it. I mean, so you need to retain enough information so that it has some kind of statistical utility for the so-called people that are going to be using it for decision making. So that's a sort of a balance, very similar to the security versus usability aspect of that we deal with in security. So you want to minimize disclosure risk, and you want to maximize the information retention. And this a real-world example. Sky? Yes. Did you really spit in this?
Do what?
Did you really
Yes,
spit?
look, just like you like it.
Oh, wait, this is mine, right?
No, that's yours.
Oh, all right,
That
fine.
tastes like your spit. That tastes like you asshole.
Sky
I'll
needs
let you. Yeah, that'll work. So anyway, I work for Vanderbilt University. I work with the Peabody College where we actually teach people how to teach kids. And part of that is we get large government grants to figure out how kids learn. Now, I'm in my 40s. I know how I learned was my father went, pay attention. And that's exactly what took place. Now we sit them down in a room and we watch them. And we watch them intently and how they interact with the teacher. And we really seriously have like high resolution cameras, and they have rigs that have cameras that face their irises that watch where they look on a page, really to learn how. Just smack them in the back of the head and tell them to pay attention. But hey, I'm old school on stuff. What can I say? Work for me, work for me, work for me, yeah. So one of the things about the information they collect, I built a large scale storage system for them. So they hang on to tons of video data. So you actually have images of the kids learning in class. But you also have a lot of quantitative analysis data where they sit down and put what the kids are doing at what moment and how they put all this together, which you mean the fence post, I don't know how the hell they put this together and actually get some information out of it, but they get huge chunks of cash to do so. So it pays my salary. I'm not too worried about it. But one of the problems we have is you have groups there who are not really trained in data security. I mean, they're like, oh yeah, I've got this information, it's on a DVD, and I dropped it in the parking lot, I don't know where it went. And you're like, that's like 6 figures to deal with, something that goes south like that. Can you find it? What are you going to do with it? So we have to train people to like Noah had said, actually take out information and recode it. So it's not male and female in a particular column, it's series B, and inside that it would say a 1 or a 0, and they know that's male or female that way. They have to start kind of changing things around. Vanderbilt has a series of snort boxes that watch the information going out, and what it actually looks for is medical record numbers and social security numbers, because we constantly have people emailing files out that contain information with social security numbers in it. So there's a lot of things that we have to do from the disclosure risk to go in and actually take things out that can actually be decently identifiable. But then the problem behind it is we make it so difficult for these people to actually, they have to keep a key to, in this column, this means this and this means that. We reduce its usability to the point where a lot of times these guys just go, the hell with it. I put it on a thumb drive and carried it out of the office. And then we have to deal with it from that standpoint. So, did he spit in this?
No, I didn't. No. But you do need another beer. Okay. Everyone here like mathematics?
If you're prone to nosebleeds from over-information, this is
Yes.
the part for you.
Yes. So if you, think of you, like me, view math as porn, now's the time to unzip. Actually in high school I was a mathlete, yeah.
A mathlete?
A mathlete, yes, not an athlete, just a mathlete, yeah. So some basic concepts, statistics, you have data, you're trying to make a model of the data to figure out what's going on. Whereas with probability, you have a model and you're trying to predict the data. Two important concepts that are often mixed up, but essential to know for when you do mathematical analysis of large data sets. One of the intended goals is to take this historic data going back as far as we have recorded, which some even pre-internet, modeling that to now predict, improve outcomes, predict forecasting. That's the goal, and that's what's being mostly done with these anonymized data sets. So, that's a little graphic representation of what I just said, and contains nothing of more use. That's a waste. Okay.
But it looked good.
It good, yeah. Here's a real simple example of trying to use data sets overlapping data sets to sort of infer important information out of them. So looking at where they intersect. So, and this is a Venn diagram, which people hopefully have heard of.
Does it include kittens?
Yes, A and B. So you have the intersection of A and B. People that are in A and have characteristics, and then there's people in B, characteristics. There could be people that are both in A and B. So then, just when you think things can't get more complicated, you introduce C here. Is everyone with me still, kind of? Okay, I can go back. Where? B? No, okay, so now you have intersection of A and C. People, intersection of B and C. All right, this is a kind of a leap here. Bear with me. Imagine if you had somebody with characteristics or traits in A, B, and C.
Never going to happen.
Just, that's, yeah. That's mind-blowing. So you can really infer a lot from just merely overlapping data sets, theoretically. Mathematical attacks, okay. This is a sort of more practical approach. Record linkage. Anyone ever do anything with record linkage attacks or know what that, okay. Let's see. Well, record linkage and inferential analysis, those are two kinds of sort of mathematical attacks that I will sort of gloss over and promise not to get into too much math at all. I actually had lots of math slides that Sky made me remove. And
he spent 6 hours at my house not speaking to me, consuming Coke Zero, and scribbling on page after page after page of notebook paper, and just complex diagrams and equations and everything else. And it was like, that's really cool, but you're not putting that in here. There's no way to distill 7 pages of this shit down, so.
I mean, you know, Graham-Schmidt orthonormalization functions. I mean, things like that, well, all right, forget it. It's, okay. George Carlin. Words of wisdom. So, anyone here know what an outlier is? Yeah, and it has nothing to do with lying, but or being out. But it's yeah, you're not in the normal group of people. Actually, we're probably all outliers in some way, shape, or form. If you're looking at a group of a large data group, and you're looking, but just at one attribute, one trait, it's pretty easy to find an outlier. So, I don't know, standard deviations from the mean is a simple approach. So it's just some unique value, pretty easy to identify. Now, when you're looking at multivariables in data sets, now you have a sort of trying to find a combination of unique variables is more difficult and harder to detect. But if you are able to do so, it can be incredibly powerful in terms of identifying individuals. It's my graphical representation of, oh, that got cut off. Yes, I know that frequency is spelled with a Y, sorry. But yeah, so you have a standard distribution of information or traits, for instance, like IQ, and then, yeah, an outlier. Like mine's really, it's low. Sky he's smart, but. So,
mine's the Y, mine's next to Y, that's why it's not
where's,
there. It's
where,
below the ground.
Why, yeah, that's, it's funny, the Y is on the Y-axis, I know, it's, yeah, pretty coincidence, I think not. Okay, some examples.
The numbers go on the x-axis.
What's that? What's wrong?
Which rate of the numbers go on the x-axis?
We didn't put numbers on it.
Well, I'm below 70, which that should tell you something. Okay, some examples. Inferential analysis. Anyone remember this incident that occurred with Target and, no, okay, well, this I believe was like Minnesota, maybe, where, so with Target, like many stores where you can be a valued customer, or you can have a sort of consumer rewards card, or something that identifies you with your purchasing habits. And I mean, a lot of people do this to save whatever, their 5 cents and give up their privacy, and that's cool. I don't judge. But yeah, these companies are really learning a lot more information about you than you probably realize. And Target was able to, they employed actually a number of people who have statisticians with advanced degrees to just number crunch the consumer behavior of their customers. And were able to tell whether an individual was actually pregnant, and within, the accuracy was, I think, within plus or minus 2 of the months of the delivery date. So, kind of cool. But what wasn't cool was they used that for directed advertising. So they would send specific flyers, advertisements to individuals based on their purchasing behavior. So there was a woman who I think was kind of maybe a teenage woman who started receiving mail from Target sort of for like maternity stuff and Enfamil and baby formula, and her father became really upset, like, why is she getting this mail? She's not pregnant. And after some confrontation with the store manager, as it turns out, she was, and that's how her father found out, was through a manager of a Target, which it's not the way I want my dad to find out about my pregnancy. So it's, yeah. So that kind of sucked for her. So again, that's why I'm always like, hypothetically, this is what it's being used for, but things can go bad. It can be used in other ways. So that's, yeah. Database linkage analysis. Remember the big Netflix challenge prize? Anyone? Yeah. Anyone actually submit anything? Anyone have an improved algorithm for? No one really? Okay. So there was all this information, and that was provided for the Netflix challenge to improve their scoring ranking algorithm, and some people were able to actually link it with information from IMDb and identify different people who were sort of renting movies from Netflix based on the date of the movie and their reviews, and identify who these people were. And so I was actually quite shocked to find out Sky's viewing habits and the things he watches.
You said you wanted to talk about that.
He's one messed up mofo. Okay, but so database linkage, that is an example. All right, U.S. Census data. Anyone actually do the census information anymore? They used to come and knock on your door.
Yeah, I actually have seen one time in my life when someone came to the door and actually got information that way.
Yeah, how do they do it now? Actually, is it like
a drone?
It's yeah.
Drone thermal imaging.
I don't know. It's well, somehow they're able to collect it. It's one of those shady agencies, U.S. Census. Well, so a researcher found that given just 3 pieces of information, personal information, your date of birth, your gender, and the zip code of where you live, that those 3 pieces of information were enough to uniquely identify 87% of the population. And that's pretty scary, and it's quite impressive. I mean, just so if you mathematically start thinking about it, let's think about the collision attacks that could occur with these 3 pieces of information. And so just with date of birth, the birthday paradox, so what is it? How many people do you need for 50% chance?
Like 7%, or 7 people in a room, or something like that. What's the probability that 2 of them have the same birthday?
Well, how many people for 50% probability of the same birthday? And it turns out to be 23, and which is counterintuitive, sort of, to the way we think, because we think in sort of a linear fashion as opposed to the exponential aspect of how the math works. So, but, you know, and then, I mean, gender, there's really, as far as I know, still just 2 of those, and then you have, yeah. It's anyway, I'll get back to this in a minute, but that was a pretty amazing study. Personal Genome Project, which in the literature is always referred to as PGP, and I get frustrated because, no, that's not PGP, but anyway, it's, so this is a project, ongoing project. It's volunteer membership, and there's over 100,000 people involved, and you give information about yourself, all kinds of information, but what's scary is your actual, DNA. Well, I don't know what kind of DNA sample it is.
I think it's the kind you've been giving.
Okay, that's
You
what
and Scott Towels are not in on this project. Okay?
okay, it's probably more of like a buccal swab or something, but there's other ways you could probably provide a DNA sample. So the purpose of this is to try to correlate phenotype and genotype. So, okay, given this DNA, this is what the person turns out to be like. They're, physical characteristics, medical problems, all, it's so to correlate the two in the sort of macro world of an individual and microscopically their DNA. It's an interesting project. But the problem is people were able to take information from the Genome Project and look at voter registration information. Okay, 2 data sets, matching them together, and like one of the previous slides showing the intersection of A and B. I know that was complicated, but here, so medications, diagnoses, procedures. This is medical information collected from this Genome Project, as well as some other information. Voter registration, name, address, date, okay, basic information. But they did share some common information: gender, date of birth, and zip code. And as you recall from the previous slide, for those of you still awake, those 3 traits were enough to uniquely identify 87% of the population. So now what you think has been possibly anonymous information about your, sort of when you were a different gender or whatever enlargement procedure you had, or that information is now theoretically been de-anonymized, and people know that, yes, I was once a woman. And so those data sets, when you have that kind of intersection, it can be pretty powerful what you can do with that record linkage. Oh, well, here's another graphical representation. So for those that didn't like the Venn diagram, okay, public database, private database. They all have records with fields. People here are familiar with databases and records and stuff. Okay, good, yeah. So if you take one of the records with the fields out of the public database and then one out of the private, you can, by just matching up some information that is non-sensitive, so it contains there's sensitive and non-sensitive data. The private database contains the sensitive data, but the public one, no, that's cool. Nothing scary there. But just by having some common traits in both, you can actually then infer the sensitive data and wind up identifying the individual or de-identification of the individual through that correlation. And that's has occurred in a handful of cases. Actually, there was so in Massachusetts, they did a study where they published all of the medical visits from state employees, and it was anonymous. I mean, it was just medical information, each hospital visit, and there was it was some kind of for sort of better financial decision making for spending, and this researcher at MIT was able to actually identify the governor of Massachusetts, I think his last name was like Weld or something, at the time by looking at just a data set of this anonymized health-related information, and then I don't know if she used voter registration or what public data set, but it was a record linkage attack, and yeah, it was pretty interesting, and they've since changed some rules and regulations and standards, but still have a way to go. Okay, so this is really cool here. Cosine similarity. Anyone know? Everyone? Anyone? No? Know what a cosine is? Cosine, math, geometry. Okay. X, Y axes. Pretend these are two vectors, A and B, and theta, angle between them. Well, to find the degree of similarity, or sort of how close they are, the cosine of that angle represents the similarity of these two vectors. And geometrically speaking, so vectors just have a magnitude and a direction, right? Or, yeah, as far as I know. Well, now taking that and let's think about it in terms of people and information, we get to vectors which as a set of data about an individual. So it's like you have a record and you have information about different attributes. I included X, Y, and Z as 3 attributes about a person, like, for instance, their age or date of birth, gender, zip code, X, Y, and Z, because we can obviously think in terms of X, Y, Z axes, and that's 3 dimensions, which only 3 I have. But it actually can be an n-dimensional sort of space. It's any kind of Euclidean distance, any dimension, and you'll see with matrices you get involved with large data sets, and you have many attributes, which is just more room for matching. But so you have a vector which is composed of other different attributes, vector magnitude, which is significant to analyze the level of overlap between the two records within a database. And if you just take the concept of those vectors as each being a record, and you have a whole bunch of them, then it's sort of a matricy, and that's. Does this make sense, right? You got it. See, I told you, dude. They would.
Whatever.
This is.
I thought more pictures, but kitty cats apparently can do the matrices.
Man. Okay. So, I removed all the sigma notation, everything. So now, basically, if you just think going back to the cosine, the similarity function, cosine theta, and now it's from vectors, applying it to matrices, and you're able to compare large data sets and see where there's overlap. What matches up? What traits does somebody have in this data set that they have in that data set? And hey, there's a chance that they're the same person. So you have the similarity function, and it actually is. So it's
He snuck this slide in on me. This wasn't there like 20 minutes ago, I swear to God.
I had to have just one dot product in there, damn it. And yes, but that's all. Okay, so for those keeping score, you can write this down and whatever. Okay, but no, this is a similarity function, and there's lots of different types, but not going into Pearson coefficients or anything. So the fact that you're able to apply these mathematical attacks or linkage analyses and deductive disclosure and inferential analysis is kind of scary, because we're producing all this data, and big data. I really don't understand what big data. I mean, it's just really large data sets, right?
I don't think the numbers are big. I think it's, the font size. I think it's actually volume. I got that wrong at first.
But it's kind of a buzzword, right? But big data, right? I mean, it's anyway. So, but we have lots of big data sets that there's lots of number crunching going on and important people doing important things with. And there's more tools now for analyzing this data, visualizing it. trying to make it into, sort of from a commercial standpoint, competitive analytics to get your edge over your competitor, and that's a huge growing area. And more data sets are being published, anonymized data sets, but it's being published for research purposes. It's a good thing, right? Because it's to improve decision making, and that's all good. But the problem is that these mathematical attacks can actually de-anonymize data, and that's bad, because if you don't want information revealed about you, I've had some information de-anonymized about myself, and so whatever you find on the internet, it's not true. I had a body double for those movies. And this really produces another weapon for the social engineer arsenal, your toolkit. You have another way of getting that information, that personal information that you need to for your reconnaissance. And hypothetically speaking, go ahead if you need. Interject at any point. Yes. Yeah.
We have two microphones, but only one location, so I don't like getting this close to him when he's dressed.
Two guys, one mic. Yeah.
Sorry. So one of the things that, who's ever been poolside at the Bellagio? I recommend that. If you ever have a chance, get a cabana, sit poolside. It doesn't matter what's going on. That's just the place to be. I was sitting there 2 years ago, I think. Had my MacBook Air and trying to get on to whatever shitty wireless they had at the Bellagio. You figured they'd have something decent. And the guy sat down next to me, and the cabana has like two chaise lounges, and the guy sitting next to me, and we started having a conversation. And one of the things I don't typically discuss is politics, the other's religion. So we ended up talking finance and China and information, dabbled a little bit in the political side of things. But we probably spent about 30 minutes talking. And every bit of it was, sort of our viewpoints on things. That's what passed between the two of us. It wasn't like hard data or anything like that. So the guy, we chat for a bit, and like his other buddy shows up, and I can tell they're frat boys at that point. It's like, dude, I've been over to the pawn shop. It's on TV. It's really cool. And, so let's go get a steak. So they're going to go out and party for the evening. And the guy says, all right, man, it's good talking to you. You got to go. And I said, we had been having a conversation. I mentioned that I, went to a computer security conference that was coming up the next week. And I said, he said something, whether hackers are scary, and I gave him the standard rundown. And when he got ready to leave, I said, okay, your name is Brian, and your family owns a civil construction firm in Seattle, Washington. And the guy said, yeah. And I said, I'll send you an email to your work email account in 48 hours. And the guy looked at me really, he had his BlackBerry. I knew it was his work BlackBerry. And he says, because who buys a BlackBerry to use anyway? But anyway, actually on the plane over here, you could get free Wi-Fi on the plane with your BlackBerry. I thought, well, that's your, I got a shitty phone. So guess what? At least I get free Wi-Fi that doesn't work. So I knew he had his phone on him. I knew it was his work phone, and I knew exactly what was going to take place. And I said, I'll send you an email. And the guy's eyes got huge. And I said, don't worry. I said, not going to do anything to you. I'm just going to show you what's possible. So, went out that evening, had a good evening. The next day, I sit across the bed in the hotel room and fire a laptop up. And in 45 minutes, I give this guy not only who he is, where he lives, pictures of his house, everything, the financial history of everything in his house, a listing of everybody in his family and where they live. I then broke it down. I found videos of him online where he was actually talking about civil engineering and other things like that. Found every email address the guy had been using over the years and posted that in an email to him. And then I went back to his office and then scanned his stuff from the outside and gave him recommendations on what he should do for his network so he could pass it on to his IT guy. And that's in 45 minutes with just a laptop sitting on the bed playing around with what's out there easily. I never got a response back from him, but I'm damn sure it went to his phone. So what you can actually do with a lot of this stuff as a weapon, I mean, Noah is doing all the mathematical side of it blows my mind. All I know is if I sit down long enough and drill on you, I'm eventually going to find you. You're going to pop up somewhere. whether it's social, I'm finding pictures of you somewhere, and I will erase those, I promise.
Thank you, please, please.
So over the course of time, you can find enough information one way or the other. So, are you doing the last one?
You got that guy's phone number?
I actually do. It's on the map.
Sweet, okay. Okay, defending against the dark arts, yes. Proper sanitization methods, sanitizing the data correctly.
That's front to back, right?
Let me think. Yeah, that's right. No, front to back is, seriously, what are the proper sanitization methods? I don't know, but minimizing disclosure, okay, let's put in some access controls. Now, let's not like make everything, all these data sets publicly available. Maybe you have to be some kind of researcher or something, or pay some subscription, or I don't know, some barrier to entry, maybe. That would be personally, I think you should just falsify everything. That's the only really defense that I know of, but choose. Conclusion. So this, we have data that's being produced at an exponential rate by everyone all the time. Big data, big data. And greater data, bigger data sets. That's a tough one. But mathematical attacks, one of the things that was an issue is when you're trying to correlate all of these variables together to find similarities, it's you start running into mathematically like complexity issues. It's like big O notation. Anyone familiar with that? You know, and so yeah, so the whole feedback. Well, sorry. Hello, hello. So anyway, that was yeah. So you run to it becomes like, can this be done in polynomial time, or it's in P versus NP? Anyway, but now a lot of these attacks are becoming computationally achievable because we have the new processing of the MOS 6502 that just came out. No, we have more powerful computing platforms, but we don't have any standards in place. So there's no real sort of standard security implementation for protecting this anonymous data. So that's something that needs to be done. So I think it's our job to go out there and start de-anonymizing as many data sets as possible and identifying all kinds of embarrassing information about people and posting it everywhere, and then maybe something will be done about it, because that's the only way to really change security, is to hack and break stuff and make things really bad, and then that'll bring about change. At least that's what I was taught. Yeah. Questions?
Any questions? Shut up, Dan. Put your hand down. So anyway.
Any real questions? Any easy questions?
Yeah.
No, okay, I'm sorry. Good. Yeah. Good.
You've heard of panopticon?
One more time?
You've heard of panopticon? It's basically a way to measure the anonymization of your browser, and it actually measures, or it actually reports the size of your window, like however many pixels it is, the plugins that you have installed, including the versions, the fonts that you have available, among other things.
Wow, so it's called panoptically?
Panoptic.
Spell it.
Panoptic, like Papa, Alpha, November.
In the NATO alphabet, really? Use your words.
Wait,
Optic, like.
Panoptic.
Yes.
Panoptic click. So the question is about, are we familiar with panoptic click? I personally am not, Sky.
We will be tomorrow.
Yeah.
But not today.
Well, no, but and that's interesting. Apparently, you're saying that, so it does sort of analysis of your browsing sort of behavior, past, present, real. It's.
And if you browse full screen, basically it will record the resolution of your monitor.
Okay. Cool. So okay, that's yeah, and So if I'm.
So if you surf your porn full
yeah.
screen, okay, never mind.
Can I? Yeah. Can I still Tor all of my stuff? I mean, does it work? Is it?
Actually, if you're running no scripts, or like if your Tor has no script on it, then yeah, it will block out. It will make it so that your browser will match probably 1 out of every 5,000 other browsers instead of 1 out of 2 million.
Okay. Okay, I'm sort of old school. I just use links, a text-based browser, and so it's. But still, that's actually an interesting thing to know. Yeah, go ahead. Yes, the question. Yeah.
You were talking about the GENOME project. So my understanding of possibly a similar or same paper that was written was that some sequences have been published. There may be 100,000 people in the database who would like their sequence done. It's done at no charge in exchange for agreeing to publish your sequence. But there aren't that many people who've had their sequence done. However, these researchers were able to take the anonymized data, do not know who had what sequence, and by only knowing the person's age, we're then able to actually identify that person from the sequence data alone. In most cases, somewhere around 50 to 70%, but it was a fairly cohesive data set. Sure. The idea is if you had a bunch of different people from both poor and more well-to-do areas, it might not match up quite so well.
Yeah.
So what they did was then go into the database and remove their ages. Is that the study you mentioned? Because from that database, you would get sequence data. You could predict people's medical needs and diagnostic procedures.
Sure.
But you would not know exactly what they had done.
Well, yeah, so.
Or is that another?
So the question was about this public genome project about, I guess, people voluntarily submitting all this their DNA information, and I did it again. Oh, gosh. All right. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, but that people were able to then infer DNA sequence just based on the age of the individual, and that, or
No,
the...
They have the DNA sequence. By looking at the specific genes.
They looked at the sequence instead of the information in the data set.
And then
Right,
with,
they
yeah.
don't have that. All
Right.
they had, because it was anonymized.
Right.
They had the person's age. That was it. So taking the sequence data and their age, they could actually identify the individual. Which
Wow.
is really scary.
No, that is very scary, and it could very well be the same project or data set. I'm not sure. I know that what you brought up was a good point, that the, oh my God, what's wrong with me? People voluntarily would participate in this because they would want to learn information about themselves, about, their, familial history of, their DNA, and predictively what traits am I passing on to, my kids or my knuckle children or whatever you're doing with it. And just, it's informative information that these people are comfortable with that being, published, but with, just having your age, being able to identify who you are is kind of scary. You're probably not wanting to share that with the whole world. It's more of a, just your own knowledge or family's knowledge. But I'm honestly not aware if that was the same study, but there's a good chance it was, actually. So I'm actually going to research that and find out. But, no.
And with the use of the term knuckle children, I think this puts another presentation I cannot put on my resume.
Oh, I didn't just say that, did I? Really? What other question? Yeah.
One thing you guys didn't really cover is sort of the use of drones and the impact on privacy. I'm wondering if there's any OSINT resources around drone data or live video.
It's available, yeah.
There are no drones.
Where's my privacy, bro?
These aren't the drones. That's a whole. There was actually a really good talk given, I believe, at SkyDogCon last year called Biovalence, sort of the surreptitious collection of
Buying a beer
biometric
and
information. And I think the person who gave that talk is somewhere around here and could talk to you for hours about that. But yes, there's a lot of information, biometric information collected that can be used in all kinds of ways to identify ourselves.
Do we have to kill him when you're done talking to him?
No, but I have to kill myself, so that's okay. Yeah. What other? Yes.
Last one?
Yeah.
I really like the Dead Bunny Club 2013. When you look it up in Google, it corrects it to rabbit.
You're serious?
Security by obscurity.
To rabbit, yeah. That's,
Dead Bunny Club is 2013 is corrected to rabbit. That is awesome.
Dead Rabbit Club
Oh, Dead Rabbit Club, okay, that's, yeah.
Yeah, completely different, I think.
That's a different group. They're sort of, it's, well, they're, you know, they're sort of our adversaries. We sort of feud with them, and it's the nomenclature, bunny, rabbit. It's a difficult topic, but yeah.
One of my favorite things is to pick this shirt up. This is the one I enjoy wearing to conferences and everything, is to pick this shirt up and put it on and go to work and then realize I'm at a prestigious Southern university with a dead rabbit caricature on my shirt. And people go, hi, I was going to talk to you about, what the hell is that on your shirt? And then I have to explain to them what it's for. And, you know, I don't want to kill rabbits, but, you know.
Yeah, the PETA folks have issues with that name, but yeah,
I don't know what they do to those chickens, but it's delicious.
It is so good, man. Okay, well, I
Do
think
you,
we've
do you have
used
the
it.
David Wynn Miller?
What's that? No, yes, yeah, we're done. Yes, thank you.
Cool.
All right, who's next? Come on.
What, are they in their room working on the pre-zo and not paying attention to Twitter and the?
We could, yeah, I mean, if we can continue to go if you need it, yeah, I believe.